Hey guys, this is Alfred back with another video, and in today's video I just want to bring you guys the Honkai Stereo 2.6 tier list. Now this tier list is not only based on my opinion, it is also roughly taken from Pridwin. So if you want to have their actual tier list for specific game modes, I have a link in the description. But this is generally my opinion of how strong these characters are right now in the meta. Like I said, this is one man's opinion, so feel free to have your own opinion and comment down what you would change in this tier list. But just like the Genshin Impact tier list, it's going to be just mostly me talking, so feel free to just run this video in the background and have a listen, and feel free to comment as well what will you guys change in the tier list. Like I said earlier, how do I rank each character? First of all, I consider what the character is good at doing. So for example, when I judge an AoE character like Argenti, I'm going to judge him based on how well he does in AoE game modes like the Pure Fiction, instead of more single target game modes like Forgotten Hall. So that is just one example. And second, I'm also judging based on how well they compare to other alternatives. And lastly, I'm also judging of how flexible each character is and whether or not they can be played in many game modes or just one single game mode. And with all that out of the way, I hope this clarifies a lot of things. But definitely, if you have any questions, please comment down below as well. And with all that said, let's begin with this video. So let's start off with the S+ tier. We have obviously Adventuring at the very top. I feel like he is the best tank right now. He provides a lot of shielding, and on top of that, he is a follow-up attack oriented tank. So follow-up attack is right now one of the strongest way of doing damage right now in the meta. So obviously a tank that can also follow up will be very good. Now the reason why he's much better than Fu Xuan, as you can see that she is in S tier, is mainly because if you play him in super late game, for example in your Simulated Universe, Divergent Universe, etc., when you play the higher levels like Conundrum 6 and above, you realize that Adventuring is just much more valuable than Fu Xuan. Instead of directing damage to himself, he's able to just provide the shielding for his team, which can soak the damage for the teammates themselves, instead of Fu Xuan absorbing the damage and just getting one-shotted in later versions of the Simulated Universe. So this is why I put Adventuring much higher. And on top of that, he also does decent damage, and in the current meta right now, dealing a burst amount of damage and a lot of damage in a single turn seems to be the meta instead of sustain. This is why I put Adventuring on top. Beside him, we have the two support characters. Personally, you can swap both of them. They're both just generally very good. But like I said, follow-up attack is currently a very good way of dealing damage right now, and Hoiverse is really incentivizing people to roll for follow-up attack characters. This is why I kind of put Robin on top. But if you choose to put Romy on top, it also is reasonable. She is generally a very good support that can be played in every single team, while Robin is leaning a little bit more towards follow-up attack because that's what she buffs. But anyhow, you can use both of them in any team because they're both straight up very good harmony characters. Beside them, we have Fei Xiao, Firefly, and Argenti. These three are the kings of their current role. Fei Xiao being a single target damage dealer, she is insane, and she also ignores the weakness. So this is why Fei Xiao is really good. And in single target game modes like Forgotten Hall and Apocalyptic Shadow, she is just fantastic to have right now. Beside her, we have Firefly, similar to Fei Xiao. She is super strong because of super break, and her break efficiency is just ridiculously high. If you pair her with something like Ron Mei and Harmony Trailblazer, she will do a lot of damage. And on top of that, she can be played in pretty much all the game modes, including Pure Fiction. While she is a blast DPS, she still does a lot of decent damage and can definitely delete the bigger enemies in the Pure Fiction game mode. And lastly, we have Argenti. This one could be a little controversial. By my opinion, if you're thinking of one carry to have in the Pure Fiction, it's definitely going to be Argenti. He is the best at his role right now. And the most absurd thing about Argenti is that he can easily ultimate spam in the Pure Fiction, making your clears much faster, and therefore he's just super strong right now in Pure Fiction. Right now, there is no one that can rival him. In my opinion, Jingyuan doesn't even come close. This is why he is on top. Beside him, we have our two Abundance characters, Lingsha and Huohuo. Both are super strong and both are very good at what they do. Lingsha leans towards the follow-up side, while Huohuo is a little bit more flexible. So similar to Robin and Ron Mei, both are really good at their roles and both can definitely be played in much more teams. The reason why I put Lingsha on top is because she does scale off break damage and she also does follow up, so you can play her in two of the best teams right now in the game. This is why Lingsha's on top of Huohuo. But don't be fooled, Huohuo's offensive capabilities abilities with her ultimate buffing, and her heals as well are fantastic. So both are really good at the roles and both are super good right now. And the last character on S plus tier is Acheron. Initially I wanted to put Acheron in S tier, but I realized that Acheron is still actually very good because she is one of those characters you can play in every single game mode and she will do very well. Now the only reason why I wanted to put her in S tier is because the current meta does not favor characters that like to target debuff enemies, but anyhow she is still very strong, and like I said, she's super flexible. She can be played in many teams, whether it's a hyper carry team or nihility oriented team. She will still be very fantastic, and she was also the first character to ignore the weakness type. All right, moving on to S tier, we have Fu Shen. I already explained why she's on S tier and not S plus. Still a fantastic tank. If you only have Fu Shen and not Adventuring, it's not a problem, by the way. She carried me for pretty much this entire game. I don't have Adventuring in my account, but Fu Shen is still fantastic. That's why she's on top. Next beside her, we have Yunli and Dr. Ratio. One is an AoE follow-up and the other one is single target follow-up. Like I said, follow-up attack is fantastic in the meta right now. This is why Yunli is highly rated. And you might ask, why is Clara at B tier? And my answer is that Yunli's follow-up attack is just much stronger and much more consistent than Clara. This is why I prefer her on top. And Dr. Ratio, I don't have to say, he's just fantastic. If Fei Xiao's on top, Dr. Ratio is definitely on top as well. He isn't as strong as Fei Xiao, that's why he's not S plus tier, but he still does a lot of damage. Beside both of them, we have our break DPS. We have Rappa, who is a multi-target AoE break DPS, and we have Boothill, who's a single target break DPS. Rappa can be played in Pure Fiction, Boothill can be played in Forgotten Hall and Apocalyptic Shadow, making them both fantastic choices. Once again, not as good as Firefly, because Firefly can do both. That is why I position her at S plus tier. But these two characters, they deal a lot of damage. If you have them in your account, they will do and serve their purpose very well. Beside them, we have Topaz, who is the follow-up attack sub DPS. Her damage buffs for follow-up attack is insane, and on top of that, she also does decent follow-up attack. This is why she's on S tier. The reason why I didn't put her in S plus tier is because she actually has a free-to-play option, which is March 7th, who basically does the same thing as her, but she doesn't amplify the damage as much as Topaz. That's why she's not an S plus tier. She is still really decent. If you have her in account, she is a premium unit, and that's why she is at the top as well. You can easily put her at S plus tier if you wish as well. Next to her, we have Harmony Trailblazer. I don't have to talk too much about this character. This character is really good and very strong. Now, the reason why she's not at S plus tier is mainly because if you want to utilize her kit, the enemy has to already be weakness broken, so that is a little tricky for the Trailblazer. And on top of that, her damage isn't as spectacular at all. All she can do is the super break buff that she has, but other than that, she is still very strong. Pairs very well with Ron Mei in the meta, and you already know Ron Mei can be used in many teams. Also pairs well with our break DPS, which are all in the S tier, and that is why she's in S tier as well. And finally, the last two characters in S tier is Jade and Himiko. Both are fantastic AoE follow-up attack characters. Now in the AoE follow-up attack team, Jade is a premium unit, so you can easily run the team without Jade, but you realize that when you have Jade in the team's damage is just amplified further. That's why they're both in S tier. Now the reason why I didn't put them in S plus tier is because that the AoE follow-up attack team is primarily carried by Herta, which is a 4-star character who does insane amount of damage, rather than Himiko. And if Herta is not doing damage, your Jade is not doing damage, so that's why they're only in S tier. But don't be fooled, in the Pure Fiction, these two characters are insanely strong. And moving on to the A tier, this tier features the OG characters. In the first, we have Sparkle and Bronya. Both are characters that like to drag their teammates around. I put Sparkle above, mainly because of Hyperspeed Sparkle. It's such a strong build for her. It's quite hard to farm for it, but if you can farm for it, it's very good. And on top of that, she provides just much more buffs with her kit, and that's why she's on top of Bronya. But obviously, Bronya is the cheaper alternative, which is still very decent. So if you have Bronya, nothing wrong. Beside them, we have Locha. The reason why he's not at S plus tier with the other two characters is because Locha does not offer as much offensive capabilities as both of them. Don't get me wrong, he's still a decent healer, but right now, like I said, in the meta, we prefer characters who can amplify damage, because damage is the meta right now instead of sustain. However, Locha in Simulated Universe is okay and really decent. That's why he's at A tier for now. Beside Locha, we have the 3 DOT characters, Kafka, Tiao Chu, and Black Swan. Now, these 3 characters, the reason why they're A tier and not S tier is mainly because right now the meta does not favor dot characters. That's why they're not as highly rated. But don't get me wrong, as soon as Hoyoverse introduce the next Nihility character or the next dot character, you will know the ratings for this tree will shoot up instantly. But for now, they're at a really good spot. A tier is where I put them at. And lastly, we have Silverwolf. Silverwolf is not a bad character, but in my opinion, in a meta where so many characters can inflict their own weakness break on the enemy, regardless of their type, I think Silverwolf is not really a necessity in the current meta. Obviously, you will still run Silverwolf in Acheron team because she does a lot of debuffs for Acheron. However, if you don't have Silverwolf, it's not a major impact in your account. That's why she's in A tier. Obviously, she is still a fantastic character, and especially in single target game modes, but you don't really need her and she's not an essential anymore. Next in the B tier, we have Clara on top. The reason why I put Clara on top is because she is a full up attack character similar to Yun Li. That's why she is on top. The next three characters are the three musketeers of power crap characters. We have Inhibitor Lune, Ting Liu, and Blade. These three characters used to be weapons of mass destruction, no puns intended. However, right now in the meta, in order to make them work and in order for them to carry as hard as they used to carry before, you need a lot of investment. And sadly, the meta isn't just really for them right now because Hoyoverse is incentivizing users to do different type of damage instead of just pure DPS like them. But like I said, in endgame, they are still very good. If you have any of them at a very high investment, they can still keep up with the current meta characters. It's just that they're not favored right now in the meta. And lastly, we have Seele. Seele is a very hard character to judge because she is kind of single target and AoE at the same time. You can use her on all the three game modes, similar to the power crap characters. She isn't as good as she used to be before. However, if there's a lot of quantum enemies, you can expect Seele to rise up in power again. Next, we have the C tier. We have the General and Japart. Both are at C tier. Sadly, even a heavily invested Jing Yuan is not going to be matching Argent's damage because Argent's damage is just much more consistent and much more hard hitting than your Jing Yuan. I've seen people who have Jing Yuan's light cone and a very good invested Jing Yuan not even do as much damage as a Rappa who doesn't even have her light cone. So that is just absurd. Obviously, right now the meta isn't for him, but hopefully Hoyoverse will give him some buffs so that he will be as strong as Argent. Next, we have Japart, the free-to-play tank. If you don't have Fu Xuan and Adventuring, you can consider using Japart. The problem with Japart is that his shield comes from his ultimate and not his skill. So you need to be building energy recharge on him. And if you're building energy recharge on him, he's not going to have a stronger shield. So there's a dilemma that a lot of people have. And this is why Japart is just not as good. Passive is also not good at all for a tank. And lastly, the D tiers. These are the worst characters in the game right now. We have Bailu. Sadly, even though she carried me a lot from the early game, she isn't as good. Her healing isn't consistent. And her buffs is just not good enough and not comparable to the top healers in the game right now. Welt has really fallen off the meta. He's just a character that specializes in slowing and debuffing. And once again, same problem as Acheron. Debuffing is not in the meta right now. And because he already doesn't do that much damage for a team, this is why Welt is at the bottom. I don't talk about Trailblazers. The best form right now is Harmony. You shouldn't be using the Fire Trailblazer and Physical Trailblazer. And lastly, we have Yanting at the complete bottom. This character is so bad, mainly because if you take damage, you're going to be losing 50% of your DPS of Yanting. This is why he's really terrible, and Hoyoverse should really change this mechanic so that he will still be able to do damage regardless of taking damage himself. Alright, and with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching and listening till the very end. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. I'll try my best to answer as much as I can. Also, comment down below what you would change in this tier list. Like I said, this is my opinion. And finally, if you like videos like this, please do subscribe. We'll be doing more videos like this and meta insights in the future. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Peace.